Welcome aboard, aviation lovers. Solomon here with another thrilling episode of Flipside 05. And today we're diving into the skies to explore the 10 craziest aviation stories of all time. From unbelievable survival tales to mid-air mysteries, aviation history is packed with stories that defy all odds. So buckle up as we take off on this wild ride through the strangest, most jaw-dropping moments in aviation. Let's get started. The woman that fell 18,000 feet and survived. First on our list is one of the most unbelievable survival stories in aviation history. Picture this, you're on a flight, 18,000 feet above the Amazon rainforest, when your plane is struck by lightning and disintegrates in mid-air. Sound like a nightmare, right? Well, for Julian Kopka, this was real life in 1971. She was the sole survivor of Lancer Flight 508 after it was hit by lightning. Julian was ejected from the plane, still strapped to her seat, and plummeted 2 miles through the air. Incredibly, she survived this fall with only minor injuries and spent 11 days in the jungle before being rescued. Her story is nothing short of miraculous. This is the kind of survival that seems straight out of a Hollywood script, but it really happened, and that's just the beginning of our list. The Great Debbie Cooper Mid-Air Haste. Next up, we have the legendary case of D.B. Cooper, the man who pulled off the only unsolved hijacking in US aviation history. Back in 1971, a man identifying himself as Dan Cooper hijacked a Northwest Orient Airlines Boeing 727 during a flight from Portland to Seattle. During the flight from Portland to Seattle, the hijacker told the flight attendant he had a bomb, demanded $200,000 in ransom, and requested 4 parachutes upon landing in Seattle. After releasing the passengers in Seattle, the hijacker instructed the flight crew to refuel the aircraft and begin a second flight to Mexico City with a refueling stop in Reno, Nevada. About 30 minutes after takeoff from Seattle, the hijacker opened the aircraft's aft door, deployed the staircase, and parachuted into the night over southwestern Washington. Despite an extensive manhunt and FBI investigation, D.B. Cooper was never found, and to this day his identity and whereabouts remain one of aviation's greatest mysteries. Was he an aviation expert? Did he survive the jump? We may never know. The Miracle on the Hudson, Flight 1549. You've probably heard of the next one, The Miracle on the Hudson. This story captivated the world, and it's easy to see why. In 2009, US Airways Flight 1549, piloted by Captain Chesley Solly Sullenberger, struck a flock of geese just minutes after takeoff, causing both engines to fail. With no power and no time to make it back to the airport, Sully made the bold decision to ditch the Airbus A320 into the Hudson River, right in the middle of New York City. Against all odds, all 155 passengers and crew survived the water landing. Sully became a national hero, and the incident is now studied as a textbook case of outstanding airmanship under extreme pressure. The Bermuda Triangle Mystery, Flight 19. The Bermuda Triangle is one of the most mysterious regions in the world, and it's also the location of one of the strangest aviation disappearances in history. Flight 19, a group of 5 US Navy bombers, disappeared over the Bermuda Triangle in 1945 during a routine training mission. The squadron's last radio transmission were chilling. The pilots reported strange compass malfunctions and then silence. What's even weirder, the search plane sent to find Flight 19 also vanished without a trace. To this day, no wreckage has been found, and the fate of Flight 19 remains one of aviation's greatest mysteries. The Ghost Plane, Helios Airways Flight 522. Now, this next story is as airy as it gets. Imagine an entire plane flying on autopilot with no one in control. In 2005, Helios Airways Flight 522 became known as the Ghost Plane. Shortly after takeoff, a pressurization issue knocked out the crew and passengers. The plane flew on autopilot for more than 2 hours, completely unresponsive before running out of fuel and crashing in Greece. What makes this story even stranger is that fighter jets were scrambled to intercept the plane. and the pilots reported seeing the co-pilot slumped over the controls and oxygen masks dangling from the ceiling. It's a haunting reminder of how critical cabin pressurization is. The plane that landed itself, Flight 236. Next up is a story that almost defies belief. A plane that glided for nearly 100 miles with no engines and still managed to land safely. In 2001, Air Transat Flight 236 and Airbus A330 experienced a complete fuel loss over the Atlantic Ocean due to a leak. Both engines failed, leaving the pilot with no power. Captain Robert Pitcher and his crew managed to glide the massive jet nearly 100 miles to a safe landing in the Azores. This feat, known as the Glider of the Atlantic, remains one of the most incredible examples of airmanship ever recorded. The mid-air collision, the Tenerife disaster. This next story is a tragic one, but it had a lasting impact on aviation safety. The Tenerife disaster remains the deadliest aviation accident in history. In 1977, two Boeing 747s collided on the runway at Tenerife Airport in the Canary Islands, killing 583 people. Miscommunication between air traffic control and the pilots, combined with poor visibility, led to this collision. This tragic event brought about major changes in cockpit communication and air traffic control, ensuring that such a disaster never happens again. The unbelievable rescue of Flight 961. In 1996, Ethiopian Airlines Flight 961 was hijacked mid-flight. The hijackers demanded to be flown to Australia, but the plane ran out of fuel over the Indian Ocean. The pilot, Captain Lil Abate, tried to ditch the plane in the ocean, and what followed was one of the most remarkable crash landings ever recorded. Despite the horrific circumstances, 50 out of the 175 passengers survived the water landing, a testament to the captain's skill and quick thinking. The disappearance of MH370, an unresolved mystery. Of course, no list of crazy aviation stories will be complete without mentioning the disappearance of Malaysia Airlines flight MH370. In 2014, MH370 vanished from radar during a flight from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. Despite an exhaustive search effort that spanned years and covered vast areas of the Indian Ocean, only a few pieces of debris have been found. To this day, the mystery of what happened to MH370 remains unresolved. The pilot who was sucked out of the cockpit. Our final story is one that's truly the stuff of nightmares. Imagine being sucked out of the cockpit of a plane mid-flight. Well, this actually happened in 1990 on British Airways flight 5390. On 10th June 1990, British Airways flight 5390 was cruising at 23,000 feet when disaster struck. The windshield of the cockpit suddenly blew out and Captain Tim Lancaster was violently sucked halfway out of the aircraft. His legs were still inside the cockpit while his upper body dangled outside the plane at breakneck speeds. As you can imagine, this should have been a fatal incident, but thanks to the quick thinking of the flight crew, who held onto the captain's leg for dear life, and the heroic actions of the co-pilot, the plane was safely landed with Captain Lancaster still hanging out of the window. Miraculously, despite suffering frostbite, broken bones, and severe shock, Captain Lancaster survived the ordeal. This terrifying event remains one of the most jaw-dropping stories of survival in aviation history. It's a story that proves the resilience of the human spirit and the importance of teamwork and composure in the midst of extreme situations. From miraculous survival stories to unsolved mysteries, aviation history is full of jaw-dropping moments that remind us of the power and unpredictability of flight. Which story amazed you the most? Let me know in the comment section below. And if you love this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to Flipside 05 and hit that notification bell so you never miss another episode. Until next time, this is Solomon signing off from Flipside 05.